Thanks for joining the HomeMatters podcast with Eric and Gina Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Eric and Gina Boggs.
Here we are. Eric Boggs.
HomeMatters.
Absolutely.
Because yours does, right?
Yours does. Mine does.
Yep.
Yours is mine.
We're glad you're joining us today.
Yours.
And
we live in the same home.
Yeah, we do. Is that supposed to be a revelation for everybody?
Nope, that's good news.
We even
though.
sleep in the same bed. How about that? Ooh, wow.
That's great.
Like I said, we're glad you joined us today. And
that's right.
As Gina is dropping that deep revelation that we live in the same. Yeah, we live in the same house. How about that? Isn't that amazing?
Works good that way. I like it.
As we talk through our times together, and we spend a few minutes once a week together, we hope that we encourage you to never be just average.
That's right. Man, you don't have to be. No. I was talking with somebody earlier today, and they're like, oh, struggling here, whatever. And I was like, look, you don't have to live here. I mean, you don't have to. We can choose that. We can just accept that.
Was that me?
That wasn't you. I wasn't talking to you.
She said, you don't have to live here if you want to be average, dude.
You do have to live where I live. And you are not average, by the way.
And you are not either.
Handsome husband. No, but I was just telling this person, you don't have to settle. And that's what a lot of people do, couples, families, homes.
Never settle.
We just kind of just settle. But, man, above average, you are not ordinary.
We talk about the slide and the drift and all that stuff, that couples get into.
On those. Yep.
Yeah, and we've seen it over and over again where couples get married. They're on this high. They can't wait. And then it doesn't take long. It's dull. It's boring. It's lifeless. Yeah. Never what God
even
intended.
On down the road, Eric and I do these Marriage Matters getaways, and
I think you can still register for that. I think our block's gone, but you can still register.
I think so.
HomeMatters.family.
Yes.
You can still register.
Yeah, you can try the block. Register. We would love for you to go with us. Next one we're doing actually is in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. But couples come, and have a good time there. We're thankful for that, and we believe God speaks to them, and maybe they get kind of
spurt.
Yeah, a spurt of energy or something about their relationship.
Romance picks up for a couple of days.
And a couple of days, but that is not our desire. That's not we want life change, and that can happen. And we just don't want you to ever, in your home, family, marriage, don't ever live beneath what God has provided for you.
Yeah.
How sad, that God means for us to be living up here, and we're just scraping the bottom of the barrel down here, just making it, because that's not God's
just
plan.
The mundane and the rut of life. And again, we just encourage you to know that there's a place for your life, and especially marriage, man. We hit that because, again, we know that one of the greatest challenges today is that marriages really look like what we feel that the Word makes clear to us what God intended for marriage to look like. And I just think we live beneath that so many times.
We do.
I think we get fooled into thinking that we're just kind of like business associates, and we're just surviving, just getting through life, just taking care of the kids, paying the bills, and got a nice place.
Yeah, part of it, I think, is just our approach to all of it. I think that's kind of what we're going to look at today. Our approach, not reproach. We don't reproach. No, we don't want to reproach. Our approach to the relationship of marriage, to the relationships that are part of our home, family, and just to the people. What is our approach? As our role as husband, as wife, as parent, in that home, how do we approach that? I think it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And with that, hopefully our thrust is somehow to change our world.
Absolutely.
And again, I say this all the time, especially as I lead in the church. I'm here to be a world changer, and sometimes we get this overwhelming feeling that I've got to go and change this continent. If I'm going to be a world changer, I got to change my state. I've got to change my city. I've got to change the nation. And you may do that, but it all starts at home.
That's so true.
And again, from our
I don't
homes.
care who you are, what platform you stand on, how big your audience is.
Yeah.
It starts at home. And at some point, no
Yeah.
matter how big all that is, it's going to come back to what's going on in home.
That's right.
In home and family.
Yeah, and the results of it, I think, ultimately the results of it, the lasting results always come back to, what is our home life like, and really
right.
is it whole and complete and healthy? Because if it's not, somewhere it's coming home to.
That's right.
To cause
we're going to
havoc
deal with it somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to discount or disqualify.
Right.
Somewhere.
Individually, in our personal relationship, if that's marriage, in our relationship with our children, in their walk, it's all coming back to that. So, man, we just encourage you, put you can into this thing called home.
Yeah, and your home, again, your family, your what it looks like there, that it's one that impacts the world that we're living in.
Yes.
Again, don't ever settle for average. That's all we're asking, all we're trying to encourage you to push you toward is never to settle for average.
I can just hear somebody thinking, well, you don't know what my family's like. You don't know about my kids. You don't know who I'm married to. I mean, we are about as average or below average. But stop looking at one another that way.
Let's do this. Let's not just be average of who we are.
Yeah.
Let's exceedingly abundantly. Let's believe for the things that God has for us, and again, let's stretch a little.
I love that.
Again, I'm
abundantly.
I'm what you would call, my wife's she's way up here, but I could say to myself, I can look at myself and say I'm just an average Joe. I'm just an average guy.
No.
But
I didn't marry average. Shoot.
I know you didn't, but I'm just saying. Sometimes you get that mindset that I'm not as smart as somebody else, or I'm not as successful as someone else. I'm not as good looking as somebody else, or all that stuff. Can be mind games that go on, and you say, "Well, I am who I am. If you just leave me alone." Here's the thing I've found: God refuses to leave me alone.
That's right.
He refuses to leave me.
Pushing you.
He's always prepared me for a greater than, and there's a place that he's called us to. And we believe that starts individually, but especially in marriage, we believe that begins to multiply, and the effectiveness of it, that you really become world changers, and you impact the world around you. You impact your home to begin with, but you impact the world around you.
Man, I
person
hope somebody listening today, you just kind of get a fire lit under you, just to realize that, man, all God has in front of you and in store for you. And again, comes back to just that, how are we approaching life? How are we approaching family life, home, marriage? What is your approach to that? And one of the first things we want to look at is just, are we just casual, or are we pursuing? It's kind of casual versus pursuing. Who am I in my approach? I'm struggling with saying that word today. Am I just, kind of que sera, whatever will be. I just kind of, not focused, not, just kind of waiting around, thinking that my family's going to be great. It's just going to drop out of the air, or.
Well, again, I think that the nature of every human being, our nature many times is to take the path of least resistance, and that leads us to places where we never strive, or we never reach a greater potential that is maybe there. And that whole thing is what we're saying is sometimes we can even get casual in our approach toward life as an individual, as a couple, as a family.
That's true.
And we're saying that maybe
just kind of put it on autopilot. Just float through life.
Maybe there's a place, it doesn't happen by osmosis. You don't just talk this stuff, or read this book, or whatever.
Listen to this podcast.
Read the Bible. It doesn't just happen.
You got to put feet on it.
You got to somehow apply it to your life.
Yes.
And pursue the thing that you see out there that maybe is possible for you. I've always said this: the Word of God is not. It's not that it's something that has to happen,
That's true.
But it is very much possible. It is.
God.
It's not something that just because we get something and we read it and say, "Man, that sounds good," it doesn't mean that it has to happen.
That's
we
right.
have
It
to. I
requires
always
our
say,
obedience.
yeah, I always say, I use the word cooperate.
That's
you
true.
have to cooperate with God. You have to cooperate with the Word. You have to be obedient to His Word. And again, it's those that are obedient who will eat the good of the land. So we just believe that there's a place in our life that you've got to pursue the thing that you see out there.
That's right.
You can't
Get
be
after
casual.
it. I mean, get after the marriage that God intends you to have. Just get busy with pursuing His plan and His will, and getting yourself in a place where you can hear His voice and know that you're moving in the right direction. I mean, Eric and I use this word all the time. Anybody that ever listens to us,
I know
you
what
know
you're
what
about
it's
to
about to
say.
be. Intentional. There are things in your life, if you are ever going to get from A to B, if you're ever going to get to all the things that God intends, you have got to put some intentionality about the way you live your life. Yep. We can't be just casual about everything. We have to be deliberate. I mean, we got to be, this word, conscious. Consciously aware of what we're doing, the choices we're making, and where we are in this thing called life all the time.
Yeah, we ought to be seekers anyway. As followers of Jesus, we ought to seek. We ought to seek the kingdom. We keep seeking. We ask. We knock. We keep pursuing. And again, that's a continual thing in our life. And some of you probably heard that teaching on the different verb forms there that we see
on the word
that Jesus is saying that, we keep on doing those things.
That's right.
Not something we do once and say, well, it didn't happen. No, we keep on. We keep on seeking. We keep on knocking. We keep on asking.
You just keep coming back.
We just keep on. And again, sometimes that may be you may feel spent. You may feel like you're worn thin, but we just encourage you to find that that's something that is a reality for your life. Every day of your life is an opportunity. Every day that we have together is another day of opportunity. Every moment, every morning my eyes pop open, I get another day. I've been given another opportunity to live life with this woman and to be everything that we can be as a couple.
I love that.
And I think it's so easy for people not to realize that. Paul said it this way in Ephesians. He said, you walk circumspectly.
I love that.
And that just means with your head up and your eyes open, looking for the opportunity. Because you got to redeem the time. Knowing the days around us, they're evil. There are a lot of bad things going on. But, man, I got an opportunity to do something good.
That's right.
To make something happen here. And we just encourage you to find that in your own life. So much of that is just
a choice, that choice really to be intentional. That same passage, it says, don't live as unwise.
Yeah.
I mean, you can choose an unwise, unproductive, boring, non-effective life.
Yep.
If you want to. God will allow you to do that. That's our choice, right? But
better believe it.
Man, the word says don't live that way. There's so much in front of you. Not living a casual, nonchalant life. But
look at this next one. We're going to have to hurry here, but look at this next one. Second one, that we just say that we realize that if we're going to live above the average or the norm, is you've got to consider the common versus the purposeful life. The common versus a purposeful relationship.
Yeah, and this has a lot to do with
kind of similar to casual, right?
It is, but I think here we focus more on our perception of other people. We said it earlier, being attentive to or how we approach the relationships in our life. How do I see my husband? How do I see the other members of my family? Do I just receive him as just common, he's just Eric, he's just, like, dude I married 3 decades more ago, just we
Or do you wake up
here.
every day and say, she's a gift from God to my life?
I love that, man.
I asked somebody the other day, they were talking about their wife or saying something. And I said, I would say this one thing. I said, do you treat her like you want your daughter to be treated when she gets married? He said, that's a great point.
Ooh, that is a good point.
Because, again, as a father of daughters, I have daughters. I want men that love. I look for, my son-in-laws. I wanted a son-in-law that loved my daughter, that treasured her,
cherished
her. And again, that's so easy for us just to realize that, or to live at a place that we just kind of treat them as common. We're familiar.
That's so true.
And we don't realize there's a greater purpose. Man, this is a gift from God. They're a mighty man or a mighty woman of God, or my child, or even my brother. Man, they're people in my life that I get to do life with, and I live every day, and I don't ever want to treat them as just common. Some people, they refuse to realize their purpose.
Yeah.
But if I have anything to do with it, I'm gonna challenge them and push them to know that there's a greater calling on your life than you just living, just surviving.
Yeah.
There's a significance about you being here that matters so much. And man, as husband and wife, I wake up every day and I realize that this is not just my wife. This is God's daughter, number one. I want to treat her that way.
That's
right?
good.
But the other thing, she's so gifted. She's so talented. She's so wonderful in so many ways that God has uniquely made her. And I treat her that way. And I never let that become something that I just treat as common. But I realize the value of her life, and I live with that sense of value.
I love that. And that's something that God can do in your life. Because it's easy for us to get familiar with one another, to get aggravated and get agitated or just put out with one another. When you live together day in, day out, and you're going through life together, you get familiar with them, and you forget just what Eric's saying, to look past that's the man of God, the man that God's given me to do life with. The beauty of all the gifts and talents that have been placed in their life. And man, you're talking about above average. Begin to look at each other that way. Look at each other the way God does. And there's a beautiful thing that happens in your life when you begin to treat people with that purposefulness that God has placed in their life.
That's
you
exactly
begin
right.
to see
The
that
value.
and see that value in them and treat them that way.
Yeah,
And man, people
because
live
what
up
people
to-
do is they look at you. I was talking about you a few minutes ago, and people say, yeah, that's easy for you. You got a wife. She's a good wife. Yeah, she is. She's a great wife. And you say, well, I don't have that. Well, why don't you begin to treat her like she's that way? Why don't you begin to treat her? Look, the Bible says a great principle in Matthew 13.
Come on, treat
verse
that
44.
man that way too.
Yeah, man
Hop
too.
in there.
Again, it says the kingdom of heaven is like a man who finds a treasure hidden in a field, and he goes and sells all that he has and invests in that field. What would happen if we invested in our spouse or invested in the people that God has given us? What would happen if we invest in them every day we have with them? Realizing there's a great treasure there that maybe on the surface is not evident. Look,
That's right.
The treasure wasn't evident.
I'm not sure you see the treasure when I roll out of bed in the morning.
Oh, yes, I do. It's a treasure. It's a gift from God to my life.
Thank you, Lord.
Look, you have a lot more treasure to work with nowadays than you did when we first got married. But I'm just saying, there's a place that you realize the gift of God that person is, and you never treat those people that God has placed you with, that God has given you, friends, family, associates, whoever. I don't think we ever treat anybody just with a sense of familiarity. Familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Yeah.
And it causes us to treat them less than they really are.
God help us. And what about this one? Can we end with this one? Talk about our approach now. Are we passive? Are we aggressive? Okay. Now don't be afraid of that word. You're good. Don't be afraid of that word aggressive. Okay. Now we're not encouraging you to be mean, right? I think sometimes people
come on, grow up out there.
Exactly. But
Again,
I think
don't be
sometimes
afraid of that
people
word.
are intimidated by that word.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
Aggression is used in such a negative light nowadays.
Yeah, but don't. There should be aggression in your life when it comes to the things of God and going after what He has for you and your family. You should be aggressive about that. And the reality is
if you don't realize you have an enemy
that
truth. Wants you
God
to live beneath any of this that we're talking about today, you are fooling yourself.
And if you live passive, He'll steal everything you have.
He will play you every day of your life. And we just want you to know that, man, you have to wake up with a sense. There's a war that is brewing all around us. And
I just said it, John. He's come to steal, kill, and destroy you individually and your family.
He wants to keep you from ever becoming. Mm-hmm. You know, the greatest power as a believer in Christ, the greatest power you have is the power to become. It says in John 1, to the sons of God, to the children of God, he gives the power to become the sons of God. And again, we just encourage you to realize that is working in you.
That's right.
There's a greater than.
Go get what God's has for you, man. And being aggressive, I mean, the things, in our intimacy, I mean, pursue that aggressively in your married life.
Yeah.
Even if, I hear
I like
you
that.
in raising our children. Discipline. We realize the importance and the value of that, and we aren't just passive with everything.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to what we started talking about. There has to be some intentionality, but again, just the little things of initiative.
Oh yeah,
you're talking about in your relationships, man. Just taking the initiative to do something kind. Mm-hmm. Again,
step out, say something nice. Yeah,
and again, I think that it's so easy for us sometimes to miss all of that, and. It's time to go.
It is.
We're
Man,
so
that went
glad
by quickly. Don't
that you
live
spent time with us today
and below. Go get what God has for you. Your home matters, and He cares.
Yeah. Hey, we will see you next time. God bless you. Can't wait to join you again.
That's right. Until then.